It's Tuesday night.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live. My name is Cuda Zmuda. I'm a rising sophomore from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I'm a finance and communication study double major, and I will be your student host for the night. I'm so excited to be here with you all, and we have a lot of fun things planned with segments from Carson, Rebecca, Tim Miller, myself, and special guest Jamie Jones Miller. And I'm going to throw it over to Carson to get us started.
All right, so I'm here to talk a little bit about the news and some fun headlines that I have seen in the news. So this is going to be our first little interactive piece of the evening. I'm going to throw up a poll and I'm going to ask you to choose which headline is not actually a real headline. So our number one option is unicorn riding scooter in fatal crash. Number two is police remind residents do not call 911 if you run out of toilet paper. Number three, new license plates have a problem, not should read problem. You can't read it, just like I can't read my own writing here. And number four, why TPing houses is a thing of the past. So go ahead and choose which one you think is not a real headline. You see those numbers coming in, shifting all around. Give everyone a few more seconds to get their answers in. Seeing who we have here in the room. Oh, it's becoming a pretty even split. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. We chose that the new license plates have a problem. You can't read it, just like you can't read that. But actually, the answer that is not a real headline is why TPing houses is a thing of the past. So unfortunately, those first three options are all things that have happened and had to be NPR strange headlines of the day. So that unicorn riding scooter, that was interesting. I read a little bit about that. The unicorn scooter is like a company that's similar to the bird scooters. And so there was unfortunately a fatal crash a little bit earlier in earlier in April, I'm sorry. And then Oregon actually had a huge problem with people calling to talk about their toilet paper running out and calling 911 to see what they should do, if they should leave their houses. So that was just a fascinating read and some good life skills that people could learn from that. And finally, also there was a state, I was in Utah, that had new license plate. They had changed a little bit of how the graphics were and how the font is. And unfortunately, you could not read them. So that's a little unfortunate. But I do think it's funny that TPing houses have stopped a little bit while everyone is holding their toilet paper just a little bit closer to their hearts. So I'm sure we'll see that come back up as we move forward in our time, as we come back out of phase one and phase two. So, all right, I'm gonna turn it back to Cuda. That was the news tech in for today. And over to you, Cuda.
Thank you. And now we're going to throw it on over to Rebecca for this week's Sabías Qué.
Oh, muchas gracias, Cuda. En Sabías Qué, do you all know that bananas are curved towards the sun? Why bananas are curved? Because they grow towards the sun. The word emoji comes from the Japanese words e and moji, which mean picture and character. Do you know what the most fun word to say in Spanish is? It's an eye, nose, throat, ear doctor. Anyone know it? Otorinolaringólogo. Try it in the comfort of your home, in the comfort of being muted. Otorinolaringólogo. Steve Irwin has a species of snails named after him, scientifically called the cricky Steve Irwini. There is a town in Honduras where it rains fish once a year. Dolphins have names for each other. McDonald's once made bubblegum flavored broccoli. In Switzerland, it is illegal to own just one guinea pig. And the Twitter bird actually has a name. It's Larry. Thank you, Cuda.
Awesome, and thanks so much for all those fun facts. So now I am very excited to introduce our special guest. Jamie Jones Miller is the current senior advisor of the Roosevelt Group with 13 years of experience on Capitol Hill, serving under several congressmen working in the Department of Defense, and recently being awarded the Department of Defense Medal for Distinguished Public Service. She's a proud JMU grad with a BA in International Affairs and a former president of the JMU Alumni Association. She works with several JMU councils and boards, as well as the Alpha Sigma Tau National Sorority. Fun fact about her, in her time at JMU, she lived on campus for 7 of 8 semesters. It is my proud honor to introduce you all to Jamie Jones Miller.
Thank you, Cuda. So a couple things. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and I was asked to talk a little bit about my JMU journey, my leadership principles, but most importantly, my thoughts about networking. But I want to start with an idea that JMU kind of gave to me, something it brought into my life. And that is the idea that you can lead from wherever you are. To me, this is really what JMU's motto of holding the door open for others means. And when I think about networking, which is extremely scary to me, I'm an introvert, it is very scary. I try and reframe it from that idea of how can I lead from where I am? How can I open doors for other people? And so I want to start off tonight by asking you a few questions, and think about this as you're thinking about whatever your next steps are at JMU or in your professional life or in your volunteer life. You know, who and what do you value? Why do you do what you do? How do you do it? And these are some important questions to me that I think about when I'm thinking about myself as a leader. And last year, I was asked to be part of a research project on leadership. And one of the assignments was to come up with my top 10 leadership principles. So I want to share some of those with you. So first, of course, I believe in opening doors for others in the greatest tradition of JMU. I believe in happening to things, not having things happen to me. I believe that I belong at the table and in the room where the toughest, most critical decisions are being made. I believe in failing fast and recovering even faster. My old boss, Secretary Mattis, one of the most legendary Marines in modern military history, has said even the best plans don't survive first contact. And he also says the enemy gets a vote. So you've got to be resilient. I believe that time is my most precious resource, and I treat the time of others as such. I believe in investing in relationships because you cannot surge trust. I believe in lifelong learning. I'm very uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. I believe that having self-awareness is critical to successful leadership. You've got to know your strengths and weaknesses, your likes and your dislikes, what pushes your buttons, and what brings out your best and your worst self. My favorite interview question is always when I ask someone, tell me under what conditions you do your best work. I believe that everyone should build a personal board of directors and mentors who can be called upon during various stages of their career. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit as it relates to networking. And then finally, I believe in being responsible and accountable to my team so that I am never a barrier to them as they are trying to achieve our shared goals. So some of the common things here with these principles is that none of these have to do with a title or a specific job. This does not have to do with me being a chief of staff to a member of Congress. These are things that I can do at any stage of my career and in every role I hold at work, in my volunteer life, and in my community. And I share these with you first because everyone can set goals and intentions about how you want to lead and interact with others. And second, this list reflects the priority that I place on relationships, which I think is why I have a very active network, which is part of the topic that we're going to cover tonight. After I'd been working on Capitol Hill for about a decade, I started to feel like I was plateauing. And without much access in the, to professional development on the Hill, I had to kind of own that. So I set 2 goals for myself. First, that I would reach out to 1 person a month who had a job I was interested in or worked at a company or an organization I admired. And second, and this was the hardest one, that I would say yes to 1 event every month that I would typically say no to. Now, as you can imagine, just doing these 2 things really opened up a whole new set of doors. In the first case, I reached out to the Vice President of Government Affairs for the National Football League. She had previously come up as a Hill staffer and worked for then Senator Joe Biden, worked for him when he was in the Vice President's office, landed a job with the NFL, and then I read in the news last week before, that she is one of the 4 women who is putting together and vetting candidates to be Vice President of the United States. So you just never know, right? That 1 person you reach out to, maybe they say yes. You never know where that's going to go. Second, saying yes to 1 event every month that I would typically say no to. I'm an introvert. Events wear me out. And so I would set another goal. Once I said yes and I went to that event, I would say to myself, let's just have 1 authentic conversation with 1 person. I don't have to meet everybody in the room, but if I can walk out having had 1 authentic conversation, I think it's going to make a big difference. So now I want to be a little bit vulnerable with you. I'm in a very unique position right now. I was the top lobbyist at the Pentagon. This is a $750 billion enterprise. For the private sector in mid-January. I'm working at a really great lobbying firm in the national security space. And about 10 weeks after I started, the pandemic hit, and now I'm working from home. So think about that. I went from a building of 26,000 people where I saw hundreds of people every day to a lobbying firm that was relatively small, about 7 people, to then working at home. And I have to tell you, it's really hard being in the relationship business without being able to attend events and to talk to people on and off Capitol Hill. So I've been spending a lot of time taking my own advice and kind of recharging my own network. So the timing was perfect to be able to talk to you tonight. Last week, I read an article that pointed out something really interesting. Do you know what Tom Brady asked for when he was traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? He had only 1 request aside from the football stuff. He wanted the phone numbers of every person on that team. Interesting, right? Here's a guy whose whole brand is associated with 1 team. He's on top of the world. He is a brand in and of himself, but he knew that in order to be great on the field, he had to develop those relationships off the field. And I thought that was pretty powerful. So I want to reframe the way we think about networking. Maybe it's not scary to you. Maybe you're totally cool with walking into a room full of strangers and you draw energy off of that. Great. Maybe you're the introvert like me and that's intimidating to you, or the idea of reaching out to strangers or people you don't know and asking them things is intimidating. But I want to reframe networking as a way to keep holding the door open, right? And that grand JMU tradition. Think about networking as a way to expand your reach, but also to build community. And your network is going to have a lot of different layers. It should also be mutually beneficial to you and to the people that you're connected to. And building a network requires nuance and sophistication and strategy. You're not going to just come in hot directly to a stranger and ask about jobs, right? You're probably going to want to kind of ease into that and maybe ask for some advice first. A really strong network has boundary spanning relationships. What does that mean? It means you have different and diverse groups of people who are outside the bubble that you live in, both vertically, people that have more experience with you, and horizontally, your peers, and then other people who are more junior to you. So those barriers that are inherent in networking, like I said, I feel them myself, that feeling of being inauthentic, the fear of bothering people. I don't want to waste people's time. The fear of no, the fear of not getting an answer. And so I started to do a little bit of research because there's a lot of there are a lot of people out there that are writing about networking during COVID-19 and whether it's a good idea to network right now or not. And I thought that that really applied to our seniors, right, who are graduating, or people who are trying to line up internships this summer, or for people who are looking for jobs. How do you network in a time where we're trying to be sensitive to where people are? And so I want to offer you some of my secrets, and they're not literally my roadmap at a very basic level. I'm not going to share with you the nuances of informational interviews or how to have a conversation with someone, but I'm going to give you some tips that you can action and you can do right away. So first, you hear this all the time, develop your elevator pitch. This is the 60 seconds you're going to get to introduce yourself. Maybe it's in a virtual format, maybe it's on the phone, but most importantly, where are you right now? Not physically, but like kind of what space are you occupying right now? Think about that. Are you job searching? Are you thinking about grad school? What are you doing? What are you looking for? When I have someone coming to me and they ask me for help, this happened just this week. I was trading emails with someone that I used to work with at the Pentagon, and he asked me to keep an eye out for jobs. And so I wrote him back and I said, what jobs? This is way too generic. Be more specific. What are you interested in? Public sector, private sector? Do you want to stay in communications? So I kept asking him questions. If he'd come to me up front and said, hey, we've known each other a long time. Here's what I'm really good at. I'm interested in changing jobs. Here's some of the things that I'm looking for. It would have saved us both a lot of time. And then for me, thinking about my story that I shared with you, going from the Hill to the Pentagon to a lobbying firm, who am I now that I'm no longer a public servant? I've worked on the Hill, I've worked at the Department of Defense. That's been my identity. What is my identity now? So I've got to start to reframe what's my elevator pitch. Next step, inventory professional memberships and identify new ones, and then follow those organizations on social media. So for example, I'm a member of Women in Government Relations, Women in Aerospace, the Women's Foreign Policy Group, etc. I ran across an article about a group called the Leadership Council for Women in National Security, and it is asking candidates to pledge that if elected, they will seek parity in their staffing between men and women in the national security space. And I thought, well, that'd be really, I could get behind that. That's an interesting organization. And then I noticed that one of the women on the steering committee is someone that I saw at one of those events that I decided to go to, even though I didn't really want to. And so I sent her a note on LinkedIn and said, hey, I know you're part of this group. I'd like to know more. And so we're scheduled to talk this week. The Women's Foreign Policy Group, they've got a ton of great speakers, professional development. I just took a session with them on how to build your executive presence. So think about, what are some of those national associations and organizations that are in your career field? A lot of use that .edu address to your advantage. And this really helps you kind of think about what's the current state of play in your field. And when you follow them on social media, subscribe to their email list, listen to their podcasts, follow their leadership, you're really going to find out what's going on in that space. Same thing you can do with social and charitable organizations. Follow them on social media. For example, you mentioned I'm a member of Alpha Sigma Tau. Alpha Sigma Tau has given me any number of benefits. It's giving me a competitive edge over my peers for one main reason: connections. Recently, we had an event at JMU honoring AST's 75th anniversary there. The woman who organized it is named Courtney. She is married to a retired Army Special Forces officer. She just got a new job with an organization called Blue Star Families. She texted me last week and said, I want to introduce you to someone on our staff in DC because they're looking for someone to serve on their advisory council. What's Blue Star Families? is an organization that supports military families. And I grew up in a military family. And so there could be nothing better aligned, in my opinion, than me being a part of this organization. So think about what organizations you are a part of now, and what's related to those organizations. And maybe you can get a student discount or a young professional discount. Other ideas, I mentioned I participated in personal and professional development through those organizations, but don't just do that. Follow the presenters, comment on social media, ask questions. I mean, the number of free webinars that are out there right now, it's unbelievable. And then my best tip, keep track of the presentations and webinars that you've been to. Have a folder somewhere or put it on your calendar so that you can go back later and reference them, or use them when someone asks you, what did you do this summer, right? How did you build your skills over the summer? Then you've got a great way to keep track of those things. Another thing I like to do is identify the media outlets and reporters that cover my industry and follow them on social media. So I follow Politico, lots of coverage of DC, but who are the national security reporters? Those are the people that I'm looking for. So I follow them. And then start with the easy connections first, right? This is kind of who is already sort of in your bubble. Maybe it's a place where you've had an internship or a part-time job, or someone that you've worked with on campus. Those are the great first people to start to connect with. Think about members of student organizations that you belong to. I'm sure there are other student org leaders who've graduated or advisors that would be great people to connect to. Are you connected with your friends on LinkedIn, for example? Start to do a little bit of an inventory of, who do you know, and are you already connected with them? I think you'll be surprised to find how many people are out there that you can reach out to. And then my favorite part, leverage your JMU connections. This always blows my mind. Follow the JMU Alumni Association. Join your nearest alumni chapter. There is an alumni learning consortium on the JMU website that is offering free webinars this summer. Leverage those things. All of the colleges have advisory boards, or at least most of them do that I'm aware of. Figure out who is on that advisory board. Connect with them on LinkedIn. Look for events. The political science department board, at the request of a couple students, actually just did a webinar on job searching during a recession. And so then that was a great opportunity for students to join and then to connect with the presenters and then see where things go from there. Think about the international umbrella organization for your student orgs. This is where JMU Student Affairs can help. It's easy for me to say this. I'm a member of a national sorority, right? So Alpha Sigma Tau network is huge for me, but maybe you're a member of InterVarsity, or maybe you're a member of another organization on campus that has a national organization. Those are great places to find some connections. And then outreach to your existing network. When I left the Pentagon, I sent everyone on my contact list an email with my new contact information. That's easy. But then I made a list of the people that I wanted to connect with in the first 100 days. That part has been hard. The other thing I do, if I see an article or I read something, and in fact, I'll go back to talking about Courtney and Blue Star Families. I knew that she just started with this job. I saw an article about Vice President Pence's wife celebrating military spouses, and that there was going to be an event. And so I forwarded that event information to Courtney, right? I saw this article, I saw this event, and I thought of you. Really easy to do. And then I think about, putting it out there. If you are looking for a job or an internship, make sure people know that you are looking. I mean, they can't help you if they don't know. And this is where your existing network is going to come in. Perfect example, looking for a new volunteer in Alpha Sigma Tau to do some executive communications work. I know there are a couple members of AST who had study abroad and internships canceled over the summer. So those are the first people that I reached out to because I knew that they were looking. And then the last thing, when you're looking and you've told people that you're looking, make sure they're informed about where you're interviewing and when you actually land a job. This is the thing that most people, I think, forget to do. But remember that they've invested their most important resource, their time and their capital on your behalf. So make sure your network kind of knows and is keeping up with what's going on with you. Bringing people together. Being a convener of people is another great way to build your network. What you guys are doing tonight, like this is networking. You are building and growing your network right now. So I want to share 2 examples of what I'm doing. Last December, I was on a panel for a group called National Security Girl Squad. 5 women on a panel talking about national security issues. And we got together afterwards in the hallway and we said we would get together in 6 months. That kind of stuff like never happens. Usually say, yeah, let's get together, and then it never happens. But I said, I'm going to be in charge of this. So this week I reached out to that group and said, hey, remember when we said we were going to get together again? Well, we're actually going to do it, and we're going to have a virtual coffee. And everyone said, I'm in. I'm doing the same thing with my old colleagues at the Pentagon. There were 5 of us that were really close. We worked together all the time. We've all left the Pentagon now. And I think we'd be a great network for each other where we can share information. And so we're going to have a virtual coffee next week. So think about it. What if you emailed 5 or 10 of your peers, people in your student organization, at your job or your internship, and just asked them how they were doing and if they needed any help? Or what if you reached out to the executive committee of a student organization you're involved in to see if you can make some alumni event happen? Or reach out to your department chair and see what events they have in mind for recent graduates. Don't be afraid to be the person that pushes the button to get something started. Bring people together. I put on here, connect with people that you met at conferences and events. It's really awkward. You're exchanging business cards or you're talking to strangers sometimes at events, but I keep track of all those people. I connect with them on LinkedIn, and then I'll go through that list of those cards and I'll send people notes. And I just had a great conversation with somebody on LinkedIn that I met standing in the buffet line at the Politico Women Rule last year. Share your expertise. This is something that I'm doing right now, and it's not that you have to be a professional or be an expert on something in particular, but I think it kind of like a reciprocity ring. What can you offer to your friend group? Are you good at navigating Zoom? Are you really good at creating Instagram stories or graphic design or editing? Reach out to your friends and say, hey, what do you guys need help with? And then you never know where that's going to go. For those of us who have graduated and we're in jobs, we're always open to doing informational interviews. If someone emails me and says, hey, I'm a JMU student, I'd love to do an informational interview, I always say yes. In fact, this month I've done 4 with JMU students and 1 with a future Duke just in the last couple of weeks. And then this is another thing that it doesn't seem like networking, but it's important. Build a game plan for what you're going to read, listen, and watch. Somebody reached out to me at the start of the pandemic and said, hey, what are you reading right now? Like, do you have any book recommendations? What are you watching? And I'm not talking about Netflix and like Tiger King. I'm talking about what are the podcasts that like really get you motivated? Or what are the blogs that you're reading that really inspire you? And the reason why this is important is it gives you something to talk about. It makes you interesting, right? When you are learning and reading and doing new things. And then the other piece of advice is don't be the person that leaves other people exhausted after talking to you. So if you have something to offer, you're bringing something to the table. And that's where building that plan really can be helpful. Mastering your craft and building new skills is another great way to build your network. It helps you build influence, meet new people. Maybe you're taking a class, and it gives them a reason to want you in their network. And then I think about everyone's favorite topic, your personal brand. Align your personal brand with your professional goals. I put this last on the list, but I think it's the most important and probably where you need to start. Do that social media scrub. Update your social media profiles and your LinkedIn profile. I just did this. I realized I didn't have my full name on my Twitter and Instagram profiles. That's kind of a mistake. I don't know why, but whenever I set them up, I just didn't think about it. I've gone into LinkedIn and I've updated some activities and publications. LinkedIn has a great feature. If you go to the privacy tab under the account page, you can allow recruiters to contact you for opportunities. Make sure that your alerts are turned off so your network is not notified and your current employer doesn't see this, right? If you already have a job. But it's a great way to make sure that recruiters can contact you. Clean up your photos. Do you have a decent headshot? Doesn't have to be professional, but you can do that now. And then you can make that a consistent across all of your platforms. If you're doing virtual informational interviews or actual interviews, make sure your background is professional and you have good lighting. Test it out with a friend. Use your network. Hey guys, I need to practice for an interview. Can you get on Zoom for 30 minutes and run through this with me? The prep that went involved for Tuesday Night Live, right? A lot of logistics for tonight. They practiced it, right? So they could pull it off smoothly. And then the last thing is make sure your professional email address and your outgoing voicemail messages are professional. The number of emails that I get from like Hello Kitty 27 at Yahoo, and I'm like, what is this? I don't know what this is. We're all old enough that we should be in a place where we have a professional, outgoing email, voicemail message and email address, and now is the time to do that. So take a minute. I've given you a long list of things that you can do, and we'll share these, and then it will be on this video in perpetuity. But think about 3 things that you could do today to get started. I have shared a look into what I've been doing, shared some of my vulnerabilities, with you, things that I'm struggling with. You are not alone. You're not the only person that is trying to navigate during this pandemic. And if you can write down 3 things right now that you can do today to get started, that's going to get you on your way. So take a minute before we move on to questions. Okay. All right, questions? No questions from Dr. Tim Miller.
That's funny. Jamie, this is Dawn. I really like the idea of reaching out to one person a month and then also saying yes to something you would normally say no to monthly. I really like that. Thank you.
You are welcome. Easy, right? That doesn't seem too hard. Cuda, what do you think? Are these reasonable? You're a rising sophomore. You got a little bit of runway to go.
Yeah, I think they're really reasonable. I really resonated with the coming up with the reading, watching, listening list, because when it's something that's like a career that you're interested in or something that you're interested in exploring and learning more about, it's not something that'll feel like homework or a chore, but something that you're actually excited to go about.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
I don't know if you remember me, but I was in the Dr. HB's persuasion class.
Oh, yes. And you asked me all the good questions. I actually learned something in that class.
I just wanted to say hi. It's nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you again, too.
But I came in a little bit late, but I do think that what Cuda said, like coming up with like lists of things to do is really helpful. And like movie lists and book lists. I have like a checklist of all the things I want to get accomplished during what my like allotted quarantine time is. And then I've been one of my friends and I were doing like an accountability buddy challenge, and like we're hold each other accountable, and we're gonna do like a 75-day like mental improvement like workout challenge where you have to read at least 10 pages a day. You have to try and get some exercise. It could be any kind, outside and inside. So just like setting little goals that you can achieve.
That's awesome. Can I join your accountability
Yeah,
buddies?
do it.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Rod Morales. I actually took the minute to write out 3 things that I could do today to get started. And the very first thing that you kind of that really resonated with me was update my LinkedIn. I just got a notification for like congratulations for working at the same place for like 4 years, but I haven't worked there for 2 years now. So just making sure everything is updated, and now that I'm more involved on campus, making sure that it reflects that. So I'm as you know, ready for all my future endeavors. And then the second thing is reach out to companies that I'm interested in interning for. Even though I'm still a year away from actually doing an internship, it would probably be good to show that I'm interested now, and that I really wanted to like show that this is something that I'm looking forward to and that I'm interested in. And the last thing is just share all the tips that you've given to my other exec boards and organizations that I'm in. Because I feel like it's very valuable that even if they're not here on the call right now, that at least they can get this valuable information.
Sure, and we'll figure out, we'll share this, but I think we could probably turn it into some sort of checklist or a list like that for folks if you want to download it. Everyone's nodding. Okay, good. All right. Anybody have anything else?
I have a question.
Hi, Megan.
Hello. Hi, everybody. So I feel like I'm really bad at starting conversations when I'm trying to network, and then at the same time seeming authentic, and like I'm not just having a conversation with you to get something out of this for me. What are your tips to seeming just like I want to just like form a nice relationship with you and not just like be selfish in my motives?
I'm so glad you asked this. I actually wrote down a list of questions to ask. So, because it is kind of nerve-wracking, right? And interacting with strangers. And so I'll tell you kind of what I did. So when I reached out to the woman, Cynthia at the NFL, I sent her an email. I said, Cynthia, I read this article about the NFL Players Association and some negotiations that are going on, and Congress is getting involved, and the intersection of sports and policy is really interesting to me. I wonder if you'd have, 30 minutes for an informational interview. And she wrote me back right away. And I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And then I was like, oh no, I actually have to go on this informational interview. And like, what are we going to talk about? So I started thinking about like, what are some of those questions that I could ask? And this could go in so many different directions, but I'll share some of them. What skills do I need, or what skills do you feel like are important to be successful in your role? And how can I build those skills, start building those skills today? How did you get here? I've Googled you, I've stalked you, appropriately on LinkedIn, not being weird about it, but I am doing I've done my homework, I've read your story, I've looked you up, but what's your story? Like how did you get here really? People always love to talk about themselves, but that you can get some really great insight about some of the steps that they took. Thinking about, what associations are you a member of, right? What are some of those professional organizations that you find valuable? What's some recommended reading? What industry publications do you read? Who do you follow on Instagram? Like, who are those influencers that help motivate you to get out of bed to do your work every day? What are some issues or some concepts that I could get smart on now to prepare me to be successful in this field? How is your team or your business or your industry adapted to this new virtual, remote, distributed team model, right? Not hard questions, but I think things that you can glean a lot of information about a path somebody took, but also showing that you've done your homework and you want to get something out, you want to have a conversation with them. And then conversely, I think asking the question, is it okay if I follow up with you after this interview? Is it okay if I connect with you on LinkedIn? Is it okay if we can continue this relationship because I've really learned something from it? And then that's when you follow up with what you add, your value add, right? Maybe it is that I saw this article and I thought of you. Maybe the person doesn't ever open that email. Maybe they do, or maybe they don't respond, but then you're adding something to the equation and you're not just taking from it. And then the other really easy thing that you can do in showing your support, people publish a lot on LinkedIn. They put a lot of posts on there on social media. Just like their stuff, comment on their stuff, engage with them that way. So you don't have to have this formal back and forth, but you can show that you're supporting and you're interested in what they're doing. And then it doesn't feel like just a one-way relationship where you're taking everything.
Hey, Jamie, this is really great. This is better than Netflix.
Hey, thanks, Nico.
The only thing,
Oh, hey, Don.
I'll just say 3 words and I'll shut up. Take the shot.
Folks, these are my parents, Mark and Bobby Jones. They are the reason why I went to JMU. They are not Dukes. But I played basketball at JMU and in high school. And the advice my dad would always give me is take the shot. Always ask for the ball, right? If you're the one that has the ball, you're the one that can control the ball, the movement on the floor. You control the pace of the game, right? You should always be ready for the ball and be ready to take the shot. So awesome advice from my dad. Thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if this is on topic or not, but I'm just gonna ask it. So, okay, so kind of going off of what Megan was talking about, what if you're going up and you don't necessarily have like a professional relationship with this person yet? You would like to, but you were kind of like not, I don't know how to phrase this, but you want to present an idea to them because you think that they have the contacts and like the people on their like, what's it called? They just know more people and they're more connected than you might be, but you have an idea that you'd like to present. How would you go about doing that without making it all about you and as if you're trying to use them to get like ahead?
I feel exactly what you're saying because this literally just happened to me. So I guess you could call this a humble brag moment, and I haven't even shared this with Tim yet, but it was suggested to me that I apply for an award with Women in Aerospace. They have a leadership award for women, and it was suggested to me that I apply for it. So I was like, well, that's kind of like, that's weird. Like, how do you like nominate yourself for an award like that? I don't feel comfortable with that. So then I was like, well, I guess I could ask someone else to nominate me because this person who reached out to me didn't feel like they were in a position of enough weight to be the nominator. Anyway, long story short, I reached out to a couple people in my network and I said, is this award a real thing? Like, do you think, like, what's your advice? Like, how should I handle this? Like, who else, help me think this through. Should I apply for this? Will this help me professionally? What advice do you have for me? And one of those people I asked was one of the people that I would very much like to nominate me, but I didn't come in immediately and say, I want you to nominate me, or will you nominate me? I said, hey, I've run across this thing. I just want to sense this out and get your advice. And in the course of that conversation, he said, I want to help. I want to be the person that nominates you. So the outcome actually got to where I wanted it to, but it was because I was asking for their advice and being very authentic and saying, hey, I'm not sure if this is the right fit for me or if this is the right thing to do. Does this award actually mean anything? And so that's what I would recommend to you. Is that's how you kind of use your network, or even a stranger is saying, would you give me a little bit of your time? I would like to, you're an expert on this thing. I want to know more about that thing. Would you give me a little bit of your time because I'd like to get your advice? So that's the first step. The second step is follow up with that person. When they say yes, because they will, everyone's flattered. They always want to give their advice and opinion, right? And then the third step is the most important thing. Once they have helped you with the thing that you want help with, once you've pitched them, once you've presented, say thank you. Let them know how it went, right? Because they're going to be wondering forever if the advice that they gave you actually worked.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
And with that, I think that was an excellent last question. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, Jamie Jones-Miller. It was a real honor, and I feel like I don't know about everyone else, but I know I learned a lot.
I'm so glad. Thank you.
Of course. And now we're going to throw it on over to Tim Miller for a fun game of Name That Tune with his guitar already in hand.
All right. So thanks, Jamie. Good to see you. So with that in mind, we're going to do a Name That Tune. And if you want to guess in the chat box, just type your name. If you want a hint, you ought to type your name already and just not hit enter yet, so then you can be the first in. We're going to do some, the top person tonight's going to get a Klein's gift card. We got to support our local ice cream folks. Eventually we'll start doing Grammy's gift cards too, but for now, we'll stick with Klein's. I know, Carson. Yeah, so Jamie's email and handle is in there in the chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing a couple songs. And if you know it, just throw your name. And Carson, Rebecca, Sierra, who's going to be deciding who the winner is? Carson. All right, everybody ready? Song number 1.
One more time for us, Tim.
Wow.
Everybody's muted except Tim.
So funny enough, Sierra got that one. Nice work, Sierra. Julie coming in hot second.
My audio is not good. Well, we'll do what we can here. I'll move it a little bit closer.
You get nice up and close to the speaker. It'll be good.
Yeah. This will be awkwardly close. No social distancing from my laptop here. All right. This one I'm going to have to sing a little, so I apologize. Maybe. You are my Julie.
It was so quick. Julie, you're up. What is it?
I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys.
Beautiful. Point for Julie. Excellent work.
All right, next one. This is, well, it's an oldie for you all. It's my childhood for me. All right, ready? Wow, nobody?
I think you got to sing it because
isn't it
best.
Oh.
Go.
Was it Blister in the Sun?
There it is.
Nice work, Joe. I got you down.
All right, this is an oldie than that one.
I got Julie again. Let's see it.
Jack and Diane by John Cougar or Mellencamp.
Nice.
Amazing. Julie in the lead with 2 points. 2 points.
Oh, man. Julie, I got to figure out what can I do here to maybe stump you and get some other people more on the board here. All right. Almost Heaven, West Virginia. Julie.
So close. Okay, you almost
Roads. Take Me
Go
Home
for it.
Country Roads by John Denver.
All right, we're going to try and catch some other people up here. This is a newer song.
It's like she saw your list ahead of time.
Yeah. Tell me something, girl. Are you happy in this cake?
Shallow.
It is Shallow.
Yay.
Are they tied up now? Or is Julie still in the lead?
Julie's got 3, I believe, and Kate's got 1.
Oh, well. All right, so we got a couple more. Here we go. We'll be singing when we're winning. We'll be singing. I get knocked down, I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. No, you won't make me sing the whole song. I'm gonna
That's
pass.
hopeful.
So anybody?
Yeah, Nina has it. Nina, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. It's Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
Yeah, girl.
Well done.
Way to get on that board.
Their only song. Well done. All right, we're gonna do maybe one or two more. Where it began, I can't begin to know it. Julie.
Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond.
I think there's some clients coming your way.
Plays hard.
All right, let me do one more here. Headed down south to the land of the pines, on my way into North Carolina. Julie.
Oh, we got Joe. Joe came in
Joe.
early on that one.
Wagon Wheel.
Wagon Wheel. Well done. All right, that's what I got for tonight. I got a whole book here, but those are probably the ones that people know the most. Most of the rest of them are ones that, old people music. So what do we have? Julie for the win?
Yep, Julie swept that. Everyone did amazing. Everyone was right behind her, though. But Julie, great job. You will be the winner of our Klein's gift card. Congratulations, Tim. We'll figure out a way to get that to you. But
yeah.
Work. Thank you for playing our first round of Name That Tune.
And we may make that a regular thing, because at least I had fun.
And I have to say, having Tim Miller sing songs on the guitar was probably one of the highlights so far of the summer so far. So thank you all so much for being here. And I was so honored to be the first student host on Tuesday Night Live. And I'm excited because I will be back next week. So please tune back on in so that we can have more fun with another guest host, with another guest speaker. Thank you so much again to Jamie Jones Miller for coming on. And I'm going to throw it back over to Dr. Tim Miller so that he can leave us with some announcements.
So again, we're glad you all could join us. We will take this recording, and our goal is to turn it back around for tomorrow. So it'll be back out. So please tell your friends to check it out. And I want to make sure, is the person I think I got my text, is that who next week's guest is? Is that for sure? Yes. So very excited that Cynthia Ruff will be joining us next week from CMUS. So she'll be our guest next week. We may put her on the hot seat. That's one of the things we like to do here. So we'll do that next week with Cynthia. Excited to have her with us. And again, we hope everybody enjoyed it. One of the more interesting things that hopefully you'll see is that our little intro videos, we had a little photo shoot the other day of that, and hopefully you'll see us welcoming you from around JMU. So we hope that you guys enjoyed that. And what I want to ask you all is, if you want to take off the mute and share this, or if you want to put it in the chat, I want to ask you how you're going to make your mark this week. Your mark on the community you're in, your mark on the world. How are you going to apply some of the things Jamie said? Whatever you're going to do to make a mark, let's share some different thoughts on how you all are going to do that this week. So again, if you want to put it in the chat, you can, or if you want to unmute and shout it out to the world, go for it.
Okay, I got one. I'm going to respond to my text messages and LinkedIn messages within 24 hours. I promise.
I can go. I actually plan on reactivating my membership in the NAACP coming up. I was a member in undergrad, and now I think I need to be a member in the adult councils now. So looking forward to that.
And it looks like in the chat, Mandy said that she's been reaching out to have intentional conversations and scheduling one a day. And Olivia said that she plans to check in with those in her organizations, as well as making sure she's connected with her peers and those people that inspire her.
Anybody else? One thing I'll just share that has been interesting for me and that I want to keep doing is a bunch of groups of mine have reconnected in ways that have been really interesting during this time. So there's a group of 7 of my fraternity brothers and I that are now doing a chat every 2 or 3 weeks. That I think 2 of them I have not seen in 20 years. And now I've actually reconnected with them. And now we just added 2 of our other brothers in. So now there's 9 of us. So I think that it's an interesting time where we can all maybe reach out to communities that we haven't been connected to in a long time, people that we miss, people that you don't even know that you miss. Anything we can do to help sort of elevate those relationships and rekindle them, I think are amazing. I've got some of my best friends in the world now that I'm reconnected with. The best man in my wedding, who I hadn't talked to, I've talked to him since the wedding, but it's been a while since I've seen him because he lives in Colorado. We're now talking every couple of weeks. So I think that has mattered. And we have a friend of ours who's had a lot of medical issues who we reached out to. None of us have heard from him in about a decade. We reached out to him on Sunday and he's agreed to join the next call. So I just think the ability to outreach to people right now is so huge and you never know who might need it. So I recommend that folks sort of share and reach out in that way. Anybody else? All right. Well, we appreciate you all being here. Good crowd for tonight. Thanks for being a part of this. Jamie, as always, good to see you and good to have you as our first guest for Tuesday Night Live. Hope to see all of you all back next week. And we'll be back in touch soon. You all take care. Mom and Dad, good to see you too. Bye, everybody. Go Dukes.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Bye, everybody.
Good job, Cuda.
Thank you. Well, good night, everybody. And
Good job, Cuda. Thank you.
Good job to you too. That was absolutely amazing. I feel like I learned the most about networking I think I ever have before.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that.
That was great.
Ah.
Yeah, I have my notes right next to me too.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and I think what you're going to do is going to help retain students and give them something to look forward to and some things that keep them connected to JMU. And there's nothing more important that anybody in the institution can be doing than what you guys are doing right now. So thanks for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Jamie.
So, James, I'm going to talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Cuda. Thanks.
Of course. See you next week.
Yep.